Last week we covered what were the top 3 builds in Season of the Deep for hunters, and that's not going to change this week, except we're going to be covering the Titans for the top 3 builds in the game this season, starting off with an absolute staple that has been in the top of the meta for 3 or 4 seasons minimum now, and that is the Heart of Inmost Light on either Void or Arc. This build is hands down one of the strongest in the game, and it's not even close. This thing, even though it got nerfed, is still absurdly strong. And with Void, you're going to be making constant explosions everywhere. On Arc, you're just going to be having an insane amount of ability spam. Wasting no time here, let's hop right into the subclass for Void. We're going to go with the Bubble, Barricade of your choice, Movement ability of your choice, Shield Throw, and then Vortex Nades. Aspects will be Offensive Bulwark and Controlled Demolition, with the fragments being Echo of Persistence, Echo of Starvation, Echo of Expulsion, and Echo of Instability. When we look at stats here, what you want to prioritize is going to be Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline. Now, when we look at the Arc subclass here, what we're going to be using is the Thunder Crash for our super, the Thruster ability, or any Barricade. I just like Thruster because it's the fastest to get off. Again, Movement ability of your choice, and then Thunderclap for, again, ease of use. And then Pulse Grenades, because that's going to tie into one of our aspects, which is Touch of Thunder, and that will allow us to create Ionic Traces periodically as it damages targets over time. And then our second aspect will be Knockout. For our fragments, we're going to run the Spark of Shock, Spark of Discharge, Spark of Feedback, and Spark of Resistance. Again, the same stat distribution is what you want to look for: Resilience, Recovery, Discipline. When we take a look at some weapons to bring along in the Void build, I mean, for both, I'm going to honestly tell you, you should probably bring in Riptide because it's, again, the strongest legendary for that slot, in my personal opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions too. In the energy slot, Wave Splitter, I love this thing. I adore this thing. It's probably one of my most used weapons this season. And then when you look at the Arc version of this build, Cold Heart or Path of Least Resistance works really well here. And in the heavy slot, I like Corrective Measure for Void, and then either a Arc LMG or Thunderlord on the Arc version of this build. For our mods, they're going to be relatively the same outside of 1 or 2. On our helmet, we're going to go with Hands-On, Ashes to Assets, and then a Harmonic Siphon. This will be the same on both, as it will just transfer over to Arc when we switch to Arc. On our gauntlets, we're going to go with Firepower, Heavy-Handed, and then Bolstering Detonation. On our chest piece, Resistance mods, or a single charged up and 2 resistance mods. On the boots, we're going to go with Absolution, and then 2 weapon surges for either Void or Arc. And then on the class item, we're going to go with 2 bombers as well as a Reaper. Moving on over to our second build here, this is actually one of the most fun and a very beneficial one in endgame content, and that is Abeyant Leap with the Strand Titan. In our subclass here, we're going to use Blade Fury, obviously, for the super, and then Rally Barricade for shorter cooldown, whichever movement ability, Frenzied Blade, and then Shackle Grenades for the suspending. Our aspects are going to be Into the Fray as well as Dranger's Lash. And then for our fragments, we're going to go with Thread of Mind, Thread of Fury, Thread of Transmutation, and Thread of Generation. For the stat distribution, this one you're going to want to go with the exact same thing of Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline. For weapons here, you can either go the Riptide route, or you can use some sort of strand weapon such as the Immortal SMG, Old Sterling, or even the Iron Banner Fusion Rifle. And if you choose to use your exotic here, obviously we have the Navigator or Quicksilver Storm. In our energy slot here, I like to go with either Wave Splitter, or if you're going to use the Navigator in your kinetic slot, Harsh Language. And then for our heavy here, use either a Strand Heavy or Corrective Measure or some sort of Void LMG, or honestly whatever you really want here. Kind of depends what you like to use, and that will also tie into one of our mods. Speaking of those mods, we're going to head right into it here with Dynamo on the helmet, Harmonic Siphon, and then one other siphon that will tie into whichever energy and heavy weapon you are using. So if you're using Void weapons, obviously Void Siphon, Arc Siphon, etc. And then on our gauntlets here, we're going to go with Focusing Strike, Heavy-Handed, and Bolstering Detonation. You can swap out Heavy-Handed for something else if you want, but I just like to use this in case we get that kill with our melee, and then we can spawn that Orb of Power. On our chest piece, Resistance or Charged Up mods, the choice is yours here. And then on the boots, we're going to go with an absolution again, and then void weapon surges, or whatever kind of weapon your heavy is. Whichever is going to get the most benefit for you, run that specific type for your weapon surge. You could also swap out absolution here for something like recuperation, or better already if you want to get a little bit more health regeneration. And then on our class item here, we're going to go with a bomber, a outreach, and then a reaper. Moving on to our final build here for the Titans, and arguably one of the most survivable classes in the game, Solar Titan paired with Syntheseps. This is used in pretty much most people's solo flawless builds for dungeons or anything along those lines, especially lost sectors, so definitely have this one in your arsenal. Super is going to be the Hammer of Soul. Then we're going to go with a barricade of your choice, movement ability of your choice, throwing hammer, and then firebolt grenades, or if you want to get even more survivability, throw the healing nade on. Our aspects are going to be roaring flames as well as soul invictus. And then for our fragments, we're going to go with ember of mercy, ember of solace, ember of ashes, and then ember torches. When we take a look at our stat distribution here, it's going to be the same again: resilience, recovery, discipline. For weapons here, honestly, you could genuinely use whatever you want here because your hammer is your strongest weapon. However, if you do want a couple weapon recommendations, Riptide in the kinetic slot, Akaja's dejection in the energy slot, which is the trace rifle from the brand new raid, or Root of Nightmares. And then I like to run Galahorn in the heavy slot, especially so I can give my teammates that pack hunter buff. Finally, for our armor mods here, we're going to have double hands-on the helmet as well as a harmonic siphon. And then we're going to go with heavy-handed, momentum transfer, and impact induction. On our chest piece, we got 3 resistance mods. And then on the boots, we're going to go with invigoration. And then whatever your heavy weapon is, use surges for that. And then on our class item here, we're going to go with a bomber, an outreach, and then a time dilation to extend our weapon surges just a little bit longer. Simply put, Titans are one of the strongest classes in the game, and it's honestly not even close whether you're comparing that in PvP or PvE. They have a ton of survivability and a ton of usage in endgame content, so if you don't have any of these builds in your arsenal, what are you doing? Get them in there now. Be sure to use the dim links in the description below so you can snag these and get them right into your Destiny item manager for yourself. I appreciate you all making it to the end of the video here, and if you guys want some more content from me, be sure to head on over to my TikTok for some short form content, or if you want to catch some Twitch streams, be sure to head on over to my Twitch, or maybe even if I'm streaming on Kick, check that out too. I would appreciate it if you guys popped in the stream and said what's good. Again, thank you guys for making it to the end of the video. I hope you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.